Hello. All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Sullivan. I'm a senior software engineer here at Gatsby, and I'm joined today by Sid and Praveen. Sid is from Gatsby, and Praveen is from Hasura. Do you two want to introduce yourself? Let's do Praveen first.
Yeah,
Just
thanks,
like
Megan.
a little
Thanks
bit
for
about you and how long you've been at Hasura and how you started to use Gatsby and whatever like fun facts you want to tell us about yourself.
right. Awesome. Yeah. Hey, folks. This is Praveen. I work as a senior developer advocate at Hasura. So I've been working across the stack, both front end and back end, and been with Hasura for a pretty long time. I'd say probably 7 years. And fun fact would be I walk 10,000 steps a day, and I'm
Nice.
a fitness freak.
Dude, 7 years is a long time. That's amazing. How's it been the past 7 years?
Yeah, the journey has been pretty interesting. Like the product has changed quite a lot from being a Kubernetes platform to like a Gatsby layer to a GraphQL layer, right? So Gatsby in particular, we've used I think starting from 2020 early. So Hasura, in fact, is powered by Gatsby. The Hasura website, the front end is powered by Gatsby. Right? So that's it's been interesting. And Gatsby has also changed a lot in the last 2 years. So yeah.
Lots going on. Sid, do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe talk a little bit
Yep.
about what you do at Gatsby.
Yep, I'll go. Thank you. My name is Sid. I have worked at Gatsby for a little over 2 years now, I think. Maybe 2.5. Yeah, 2.5 years, I think. I started out helping maintain Gatsby open source. More recently, I've been working on Gatsby Cloud, which is our cloud platform. We have hosting and serverless functions, and really fast builds, etc. So I've been working on all of that. Fun fact: I don't walk 10,000 steps every day, but I like diving. I like scuba diving. Yeah, but I'm pretty boring otherwise. That's about it.
I wouldn't say that. You got a whole course coming out.
Oh yeah, I do. Shit,
Do
can
you
I
want to tell
plug
people
that
about
right now?
that?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, Megan, you're amazing. Okay, so I am working on a course called Rust for JS developers. If you've been on Twitter lately, you've probably heard about Rust. It's gaining a lot of popularity. A lot of the web sort of tooling is being rewritten in Rust lately. Um, and the idea is to build a course that sort of uses your JavaScript knowledge, and I use that to sort of help you pick up Rust more quickly. So yeah, go check it out. It's at rustforjs.dev. The first chapter comes out in like a week. So go sign up.
Yay. See, you're very cool. Nice. So today, though, we're going to talk about serverless functions and specifically looking at how you can set up forms with Gatsby and Hasura. Do you two want to take it from here? Maybe tell us a little bit about what serverless functions are, and then we can dive into the demos.
Yeah, sounds like a plan. So I think one of the things that Gatsby and I mean Gatsby's been around for a while now, right? And over the years, one of the things that we heard very commonly was that Gatsby is great for all of your sort of client side stuff and like your entire site, but often you have one or like a couple of bits of interactivity that needs some server side code, right? And often it's just it's really painful to spin up a brand new server or like build an entire thingy just for the little bit of interactivity. And over the years, serverless functions have become a really popular way to do this sort of thing, right? With the rise of AWS Lambda and I mean Netlify has had functions forever, etc. It seemed like that was something that the folks that were using Gatsby really sort of were asking for. So a couple of months ago, we launched Gatsby Functions. Gatsby Functions is a Gatsby native way to write serverless functions. You can write them, as part of your Gatsby project. And if you build on Gatsby Cloud and if you deploy there, it just works out of the box. And it's a great way to sort of add this, these little bits of server-side code to your Gatsby site. So today we'll be building a small little Gatsby site, sprinkle in a Gatsby function or two. And somewhere in the middle of that, we're going to use Hasura. Praveen, you want to tell us a little bit about Hasura and how that's going to fit in?
Yeah. So for folks who are new to Hasura, Hasura is basically a GraphQL layer which connects to your data sources and gives you APIs, CRUD APIs out of the box, and get authorization as well for free without writing any code. Right. So that's the magic that Hasura gives you. In this particular example, I think we're going to look at how you can contact Hasura from Gatsby for data storage. Let's say maybe I think like a form, and then we'll see how we can use Hasura events to trigger Gatsby functions, so that once data enters into the DB, you do something else after the data enters in the DB, right? So yeah, it's going to be a series of events. Data gets into the DB, and then DB triggers a call to Gatsby function, and that's the whole loop of actions that a developer can use from the front end.
Sounds great. So let's get started. I'm going to quickly share my screen. Let's spin up a quick little Gatsby site and take it from there. So
right.
There you go. Hopefully I am sharing the right screen. All right, let's probably bump up the font size a tad, so that everybody can see it. And I have a directory called throwaway where I am going to create a new Gatsby site. And I'm going to run npm init Gatsby to do that. What that does is that downloads create Gatsby on the fly, runs it for us. So let's go ahead, hit yes for this. We're going to call this Gatsby loves Hasura. All right. And we're not going to use a CMS. We're not going to use any styling. We're going to say, we're not going to pick any of that. Let's just go with the absolute basics here. All right. And while that spins up, we're probably gonna, want to build a small form, maybe something to collect email addresses. I'm thinking, and then we can perhaps, store those in Hasura and have an event later that sends an email out, perhaps. And let's see if we get to that. Right. But yeah, this is going to take a few more seconds to install dependencies. So many dependencies. Wow. It's amazing, isn't it? Modern web development. All right, almost there. Looks like. Let me go ahead and open VS Code and open our. All right, there you go. It looks like it's done. So I'm going to open. Actually, you know what? Let me just do that.
Throwaway.
Yeah, throwaway. Oh no, that's the wrong directory. My bad. We're going to want to go into Gatsby loves Hasura, then open that. I recently got Fig, and it's a little confusing sometimes with how autocomplete works, but it's pretty cool. Go check it out. All right, so we have this really simple Gatsby site, okay, and to build it, we're gonna want to run Gatsby develop. That's gonna run the Gatsby development server, and as that runs, we'll make changes to our Gatsby site, and we'll be able to test those on the fly. So let's wait for that to finish. It's almost there. There you go. It's done. Sweet. And if you look at the Gatsby site right now, let me spin up Chrome. That is our Gatsby site, right? It says, congratulations, you just made a Gatsby site, blah, blah, blah. Anywho, we're going to get rid of all of that. So let's open source pages index, right? Index.js is the homepage on your Gatsby site, in case you haven't seen that before. I'm going to get rid of all of these styles because, we don't really need them. Let's get rid of all of these links as well. Let's clean up our
can you
markup.
bump up the font size too, Sid?
Oh, good point. Good call out. Thank you. How about this? Is this better?
That's great.
Yeah. All right. Sweet. So let's get rid of all of this. I'm just gonna keep the main. All right. And the H1 perhaps. There you go. Let's get rid of all of this. And just say Gatsby loves Hasura. All right, and that's also the title. Let's get rid of style because obviously that won't work. All right, so now we have a simple page and things render. Great. All right, so to start with, let's add a form, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and add a quick form. Let's add an input in here. I'm thinking we can also probably add a button. Clicking on that button should, submit. Sorry?
Yeah, clicking on the button will trigger the Hasura API eventually.
Exactly. So for the button, let's say submit, all right? And for the form, let's get a value. At this point, we'll probably need some notion of state. And all the cool kids these days are using hooks. So let's use hooks. Yeah, I'm a little rusty on things here, so please correct me if I do something really, really dumb. Right, so this returns an array if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to say email and set email. There you go. And then value can be this thingy here. And we need an onChange. And the onChange can just be a function that calls set email. And obviously this won't work because in here we'll get an event and we'll want to pass event dot target dot value. All right, so we have an input, we have a submit. Let's add a onSubmit to the form. All right, I'm gonna create a function here called submit. And in this function, I'm just gonna log email for now. And we'll see if all of that works, and then we'll take it from there. So we have submit. So this should get run when we hit submit on the form. Of course, the button needs to be a type submit for that to work, right? So now let's look at our console. We should see a log. What's your email, Praveen? So that everybody can spam you. All right, everybody go email Praveen. Praveen, is it hasura.com?
.io.
.io. All right.
Cool. Yeah.
Sweet. So if we hit submit, we see. I think we saw something, and then.
Yeah, I think we need to prevent defaults.
Basically, the
right. Reflecting the page, right? So
classic. Absolutely. Very good call out. We need to event.prevent default because, forms. So this time that shouldn't happen. Let's try that. Praveen at hasura.io. I'll hit enter and it still does not.
No, I think, this actually goes into the form submit and not on the change.
Oh, right. I put it in the wrong place.
Go inside. Yeah.
Apologies, everybody. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Apologies. It is 10:45 p.m. and I'm a little tired. This needs to go into the submit. Does the submit get the event as well? It does, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So now if we type in Praveen at hasura.io and hit enter, we get email logs. So perfect. We should probably also clear the form, just out of like, just because we're good people. Let's clear that out. All right, and then we can take it from.
Get my email.
Sorry.
Well, people forget eventually.
Yep. We'll find out. You let me know how much email you receive tomorrow. I will look forward to hearing from you. Okay, so we have. Sorry.
I'll forward it to Sid.
You don't know my email, buddy. You can't do that. Oh crap! It's on the event calendar, isn't it? Never mind. All right. So we have a form, and the form works. I mean, you can hit submit, you can hit enter. Things are accessible, and it logs something to the console. But of course, that's not what we want to do. We want to, perhaps write this data to Hasura. So how do we get started with doing that? How does this work?
Right. So, so we need to create an instance of Hasura. How do you want to do this? Do you want to do this on your local machine or on Hasura Cloud?
I'm thinking we should use Hasura Cloud because is that
Yeah,
the
that's
preferred way of doing this?
yeah, that'll be faster.
That's what I'm thinking. So let's log in to Hasura Cloud.
Yeah.
Hasura Cloud is so just for the uninitiated, Hasura Cloud is the you don't have to do any of your own infra. It just works out of the box in the cloud. That is there anything else I'm missing with what Hasura Cloud gives us
Yeah,
out of the box?
basically takes care of your infrastructure and gives you other GraphQL magic. Like you can do caching, monitoring, and
Very
rate
cool.
to your APIs. Yeah.
Very, very cool. Let me grab a two-factor authentication code very quickly. I don't use Chrome anymore because Safari and Firefox have much better battery life on the M1 Max, but then it seems like those don't work very well with StreamYard. So I'm just gonna enter my authenticate. Please don't steal my GitHub account, people. Please. All right. So now we've authorized. We have there you go. Welcome to Hasura Cloud. Nice.
Right.
So what is it doing right now? Tell me about what it's doing behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's basically creating a project for you, initializing a console. So you'll get a GraphQL API instantly after this step, which you can
Wow,
just
man.
point.
And it spins up like the database at the back does all of that behind the scenes.
The database will be connected by you. It's a step that you have to do. So next step would
Cool.
be to
All right, so let's do that. So now that we have cloud.hasura.io, we have a console. Sweet, nice.
right. So this is like the wrapper over the GraphQL interface that you typically see, right? So just
Very
a
cool. Very
modified. So let's head to
now,
data.
All right, perfect. So we're gonna want to add some notion of a schema. Oh, right.
Like a database, basically. So, so here you will not define a GraphQL schema. You'll actually just connect your database. In this case, be like a Postgres database. And we'll probably use Heroku for instantly creating a DB.
This is so cool. The fact that like if you need a database, you can just click that and it does that for you. I really like that. Like this is super cool. What do you think, Megan?
Yeah, very cool.
Very cool, right? Let's I don't know if I have Heroku, to be honest. It's been a while. So let's just sign up very quickly.
Here,
I
I'll
wish
take
they had
you off
login
so
via.
we won't see all of your secrets.
Thank you. Let's quickly sign up. There you go. Alrighty. Heroku. Heroku is nice. I like Heroku.
Yeah, Heroku is a free tier for even hosting your DB. That's good add-on.
Absolutely. It looks like I already have a Heroku account according to Heroku. So I guess that's good. Let me see if I can sign in with the same credentials. Oh, it works. There you go. Lovely.
Yay.
Wonderful. Authorize. All right, you can show my screen again.
All right,
Megan. Thank you. So I clicked authorize, and what Hasura Cloud is doing is that it's connecting, setting up. I mean, basically connecting that Postgres instance to this Hasura Cloud instance, right?
So yeah, it's basically creating the app in the background, and then it's also connecting to your current project. Your database is connected to Hasura now.
This is super impressive. I love this. This is great. Okay, so now that this is done, what do we want to do next?
Yeah, so we wanted to store the email information from the front end, right? So we need some data model to be created for this. So the next step
how do
would
we
be,
create that?
Yeah, let's go to the public schema on the left nav bar.
On the left. Yes.
This would be like the Postgres public schema. So you can create a table here, which will be a Postgres table. So let's
I'm going to call
it
emails. Is emails fine? Yeah. Let's create a column
typically
called.
it will be users, and you will have other details as well.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. So let's do a column type that is text.
Text.
Let's make this
That will be
unique,
unique.
right?
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
second one? Oh, that's just okay. Never mind. It's not nullable, and there's no default value.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the
Yeah.
primary key is
Primary
obviously
key
email.
would be
Perfect.
That's
Perfect. Perfect. A user's email address. All right, let's add the table. This is super cool. This is a really quick way to spin up, a GraphQL API that persists to a database. This is super cool. All right, so now that this is done, what's next?
Yeah, so let's go to the API tab to quickly see that if the API is being created. So on the left, you can see that some GraphQL schema has been generated for you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can now immediately start querying and inserting data into the DB.
Very
So
cool.
let's try
now
out
if I just
a mutation from. Let's go to the data tab and insert some data, some emails maybe
all right.
of user.
And I can just insert one from here, right? There you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna add your email and my email, right?
Sure.
Hit save. There you go. Let's add my email as well. All right.
Yeah.
So now we have two rows inserted. And now if we go back to API
and let's query
for
data.
Yeah. So we query for users and query for email. There you go. Look at that. That's beautiful.
Data.
That's incredible. Look at that. All right. So how do we write to this from the front end? We're probably going to want to call a GraphQL mutation or something of that sort, right?
Yeah. So we'll do a mutation here. So
all right.
On form submit, we'll technically just call a fetch API, which will just call this mutation. So let's try out a mutation from the API tab on the console. So we've tried the query. So let's try out a mutation. So at the bottom,
click on mutation here. There you go. There you go. How do I get rid of that thingy that keeps showing up? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, first time.
Never mind. So now we're in mutations. How do I?
So you do insert. So you do an insert users _1 because you're inserting one, and then you pass in an object. Yeah, the object can have the email itself, the value of the email.
Perfect. Megan, what's your email address? Is it megan@gatsbyjs.com?
Yep.
Perfect.
More spam on the way.
Yep. And add it in with all of the GitHub notifications for.
Right.
So this will need
as a response, you can get back email as a response.
Oh, you get back the same email.
That's the only column that we have.
Right. So if I run this, we should see. There you go. Perfect. So now if I run a query for all our users and all of their emails, I should see 3 of them. Perfect. Yep. So that works. Great. All right. So we're going to want to call this from our Gatsby app. How do we do that?
Yeah. So let's write a fetch call. It's just basically a port request that we want to send.
Good idea. So let's make this does this become an async function? Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to want to say response is equal to await a fetch. Right. And this is going to have
and the objects.
Perfect.
So then we need a request body.
Right. So where do I get the URL for this?
Yeah. So at the top, you have this GraphQL endpoint.
Perfect. And do I need to authenticate to this in some way?
Right. So currently it's protected through an admin secret because it's secure by default. So you need to allow access for anybody to insert into this. So you need to add permissions to be able to insert. Or the other option is to use admin secret, but typically you don't expose a secret on your front end, right?
Yeah, so, you probably don't want to do that, right?
Yeah, so you want to define a permission over this particular. So you have to go to the table called users that we created in the data.
In data. All right, yeah.
Yeah, on the left. So go to the permissions tab over here. Let's define a role, a new role called, let's say, public or global, whatever, whichever role we want to define, global. Let's click on insert, and we have to now allow inserts to happen. So without any checks
Perfect.
for insert, and select the column that you want to allow to insert, the email column, and that's it.
This
Save
is super
permissions.
cool. This is super cool. I mean, the fact that you can pick out like these individual things is super cool. So this is going to let me insert but not select, update, or delete, and that's what we want, right? So that's perfect. So now can I hit the API without the secret?
Yeah, but we need to now say that this role called global is the unauthorized role. So we have to define that in the project configuration, because Hasura needs to know that this is a role that's allowed access to.
That makes sense. How do I do that?
Yeah, so let's go to the cloud dashboard, cloud.hasura.io, the projects.
Oh, you mean here? Okay.
Yeah, so let's go to env variables, third one. And let's create a new env variable called unauthorized role. Let's type in unauthorized.
This one? There you go.
Yeah.
And the value can be global, is it?
Exactly.
Perfect.
So this will just let Hasura know that this is the role that I can use.
So now I can just call it without a secret and it'll just work.
It'll just work. Yeah.
Sweet. Very cool. So let's go ahead and let's add that. We have a method post. Let's add a body and see this working. This is super cool. So I'm going to do a JSON stringify of an object which will have the email, right? And
no, so we have to send the GraphQL mutation over here.
Oh, of course, right.
So this will be the request part.
Right. So content type is going to be is content type going to be application JSON in that case?
Yes. Yeah, it will still be a JSON because the request body is still a JSON to the GraphQL API.
Got it. And what is the key that like, I mean, am I going to JSON stringify an object with the key?
Yeah, the key would be called query.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and rewrite. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, you can get the mutation from the history tab that you've tried before, right?
I couldn't find it. Oh, there you go. I was looking for that.
Yeah.
Perfect. So this is going to be, you said, object, is it?
No, this is going to be inside the query key. So you got to create a
query key. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This
and then that's just a string, obviously.
Yeah, this is just a string.
Perfect. So that's the mutation that we're going to run, and we're going to want to set email. Obviously, in this case, email is not going to be Megan because not everybody is Megan, even though they want to be because Megan is cool.
Thank you.
and instead, we're going to replace it with the email that the users entered right now in React. Okay, cool, very cool. So this should just work. And now we'll probably want to, take a look at the response. But before doing any of that, let's just try this, see what happens, and come back, right? Should I be awaiting this anywhere, or is this all good?
So you've awaited the fetch. You have to do a JSON await as well. So on the response, you need to await the JSON.
Right. Fair enough. That makes sense. And then, of course, if you want to prevent default, let's just do that up top. Here, right? We can add a loading indicator and all of that later. We don't really care about all that right now. So let's try this out. Let's go ahead and hit refresh. Gatsby develop is running, so I mean, everything just sort of gets recompiled under the hood, and all of that's taken care of you, which is good. So now let's add a new email address. I can't think of one, honestly. We have Kirsten helping us behind the scenes. I'm presuming she's Kirsten at gatsbyjs.com. So I'm going to use her email. And, Kirsten's awesome, by the way. Big shout out to Kirsten for doing so much behind the scenes for making this possible. So I'm going to hit enter here and see what happens. All right. It looked like it did something. There's no errors. So that's a good thing. The GraphQL thingy returned a 200. And it says not a valid GraphQL query. All right, sweet. I'm celebrating way too early. Okay, so maybe that's because I'm thinking this query needs to be mutation, possibly?
No. So no, that would be just query. I think
Okay.
probably the usage of the variables.
Oh, you mean this in here?
We can inspect the query on the network tab to see what actually went through.
Yeah, let's take a
Yeah,
look
on
at
the
what
header.
we sent, right? So let's look at what we sent. We sent query with a how does one expand this and read it like a
Users.
there you go. So that looks good to me. Oh, but it's not quoted. That's our problem. This needs to be quoted, right?
Right.
That's
Yeah.
our problem because it's just email with you need to quote it because it's a value. Oh boy.
So
All right.
the recommended way to actually use variables is to actually even use variables natively in GraphQL rather than templating the query strings. In which case you would actually pass another you will pass a variables key to the request body.
And what do I do in here? I just say $email.
$email, and then you have to define the variable called email in the mutation statement. So
In
you will
here, right?
define it. Yeah, you will give it a name and then you say $email. Yeah, $email and then string.
Oh, right.
No, it'll be $email. Yeah, it'll be
That
string.
makes sense. That
Email
makes
is
sense.
just right.
Perfect.
You
So
can
this
give, you
should
have to
now
give a name for the mutation now. You have to say
say,
insert user, a
of
name for
course,
the
we
mutation.
need to name this mutation. So let's
Mutation.
say insert
And I think
user.
string type would probably be capitalized.
Oh, it's title cased, isn't it?
Yeah, title case. Yeah.
All right.
I think
Perfect.
this
Let's try
looks good.
that. Let's try that. Let's see how that works. I'm gonna hit enter. Let's clear this because it's full of stuff. Let's clear that. All right.
Right.
So we hit a 200 and it looks like the response was mutation root. Insert users one is not found in type mutation root. Interesting.
Right.
Did I misspell? Oh, I think insert has a capital I, doesn't it? No, it doesn't. Huh.
The small I, insert users one. Yeah,
Interesting.
this object looks fine. I think it's to do with the permissions because we are returning the email as a response, which is a select operation, but we have not given a select permission.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes sense. So should we just go and add that right now?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so we're gonna go
So
back
we
to
users,
right? Permissions,
and allow
and add
select
in here. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect. Same as insert.
Email.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's super cool that you can do it on a per
Operation
key basis and a per operation basis. I think that's super cool.
Right.
All right, so let's hit refresh and try that again. This time, maybe it'll work. So Kirsten and Gatsby. I worked here for 2.5 years, but I still can't spell Gatsby correctly the first time.
Same.
Right. So we got a 200 this time, and there you go. It looks like it worked. That's nice.
Yep.
We should see 4 rows now. Look at that.
Yep.
Look at that.
Yay.
Sweet.
Okay, before we move on, you've got a question in the chat from Polly Scanlon. Is it considered good practice to catch incorrect request stop methods in your Gatsby function? So like if they're if it's the function is a post, but a get is sent back from the client, like where do you do your error handling?
That is a good question. Also, Paul, hi. Paul is cool. We haven't gotten to Gatsby functions yet here because everything is just happening on the client side. But to answer your question, yes, typically that is a good idea. I mean, so what Gatsby functions does right now is that it'll run it on any HTTP method unless you sort of specify, right? I mean, it kind of lets you, kind of sort of lets the function handle that bit. Like you can just check request.method and run or break, right? And ideally, you don't want to be running the same function on every HTTP method because in a real world, scenario that typically doesn't make a lot of sense. So yes, the right thing to do would be to check request.method and probably return back like a 500 or like a method not supported if it's not the method that you expect it to be. I hope that answers your question.
Sweet. Yeah.
All righty. So let's get back to what we were doing. All right. So with Praveen's help, we now have a working form. You can enter your email, hit submit, right, and it'll store it in Hasura, which is great, right? Now the second part of this live stream, what we want to do now is we want to write a Gatsby function that possibly sends an email out or does and here's the thing, right? We're not going to call the Gatsby function from the client side. We're going to call it via Hasura Cloud. So Praveen, you want to tell us a little bit about how that works on Hasura Cloud and how this whole notion of events works?
Right. So Hasura has something called events, which you can configure to do asynchronous tasks. So for example, a typical use case here would be that you have data inserts happening to the DB initially, but then there are non-blocking requests to send out emails later, maybe 2 minutes later, 5 minutes later, and even scheduled events, recurring events on a weekly reports and whatnot. There are these use cases. You can make use of event triggers. It basically works on listening to your database events, which would be inserts and updates and deletes. In this case, for us, it would be listening to an insert for the email to the users table. And then you can configure Hasura to call a particular endpoint, a post endpoint, HTTP post.
And that's going to be our Gatsby function. Right.
Exactly.
That makes a lot of sense. And typically when you want to do this sort of background stuff where you want to send an email out, you don't want to do it in the same handler. Like, I mean, we could have written a Gatsby function that sort of stores stuff in Hasura. Of course, we didn't need it because Hasura lets us just write it from the client side. But you typically want to do this sort of stuff asynchronously in the background so that the user sort of experience isn't slowed down because there is asynchronous task running, like sending out an email. So this makes perfect sense. Like this is a super cool example, and I think this is something that you would do in the real world, right? So to start off with, let's quickly write up a Gatsby function that sends out an email, and then we'll get Hasura to trigger it, right? What we're going to first do is spin up a new Gatsby function. To do that, I'm going to create a why can't I CD into things? Oh, there you go. Never mind. I'm going to create I'm going to create a file called so Gatsby needs a directory called API inside source, right? And when you have the API directory and you put files inside it, everything that's, all of those files become Gatsby functions. That's how Gatsby functions works. So we create a source API directory. We're going to create a file in there called, let's call it send-email.js. Let's get back here. So we now have, oh crap, I created it in the wrong place. My bad. So let's move it there. Okay. All right. So with Gatsby functions, what your functions are typically, it looks just like how your Express style functions or your Express style middleware looked back in the day, right? You get a request object and a response object, and you can, read the body and the headers and so on from request and send back, status and, the rest of your response from the response object. So the way that looks in code is we're going to want to create a function, and that function is going to get a request and a response object, right? And to begin with, I'm just going to log request, and I'm just going to send back a response.status of 200, and send back an object with OK set to true, right? This is our super basic Gatsby function that literally just logs the request and sends back a 200. So again, Gatsby develop is going to restart the function watcher as you make changes, so you don't have to restart it. All of that just works under the hood. Let's try hitting this function and see what it does. So I'm going to spin up Insomnia. Insomnia is an API REST client. It's taking a while to spin up. We could just call it at this point, honestly. You know what? That's what we're going to do. Let's just go ahead and call this. So I'm going to call HTTP localhost 8000 API/send email. And yeah, it works. I mean, we get back the OK true, right? So that's our default Gatsby function. Of course, that's not where we want to stop. Again, the log for the functions is interleaved within Gatsby's logs. So as you can see, the entire request object is logged here, which we've done in our functions. But anyway, this is not what our function needs to do. It needs to do a lot more. It needs to send an email. So let's figure out how to do that. What is the quickest way to send an email out? Should we get Mailchimp, perhaps? What do y'all think, Praveen and Megan?
Honestly, your guess is probably better than mine.
All right, I'm gonna sign up for Mailchimp real quick. All right, and
hide you.
Good call. Good call. Go ahead and do that. Let me quickly sign up for a brand new Mailchimp. And I'm almost done. Almost done. Activate.
Also, Sid, you're getting compliments about your typing speed in the chat.
Really?
People are very impressed.
Aww.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when you type all day for work, you've got to be fast, right? It's literally all I do. That's really sweet. Thank you. Okay, so now I have signed up on Mailchimp.
Okay.
It looks like we have a Mailchimp account. Wonderful. So go ahead.
Obina is in the chat. Hi, Obina.
Obina. I love Obina. Obina is amazing. How's it going, Obina?
Yeah.
This is a bot.
Okay, Sid, do you want me to add you back to the...
All right. Sorry?
Do you want me to add your screen back, or are you still...
Oh, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. No secrets.
Yep, no secrets. Go ahead and add my screen back. So in case y'all can see my screen, I'm adding... Oh, come on. Really? You need an address? Really? What's the gatsbyjs.com address? I'm sure we have one, right? Where is it?
Do we? I don't know.
I mean, we ought to. Don't we have a company contact us address somewhere? Ooh, we don't. Interesting. Huh.
Okay, here. I'm just gonna hide. Yeah, you can try it. Try it and see if it works.
Go ahead and hide my screen again while I figure out what address to put in Mailchimp.
Oh, Sid, we also lost your camera. You're just a black screen now.
Really?
I don't know what happened.
My camera. Interesting. That's odd. That is very strange. Give me a second.
Maybe Sid is a bot. Oh, but it was right.
Let me see what that is. Give me a quick second. Oh, you know what it is? Oh, this is embarrassing.
I think I know what it is. This is the 4K cameras time limit.
Man. No, it's not the time limit. This is embarrassing. My battery died on my camera.
Oh no.
That's all right. I'm gonna switch to FaceTime HD, and y'all will have to see me in plain old HD. No more 4K for y'all. Sorry about that.
Like us plebes over here.
All right. So we've now signed up. We now have a Mailchimp account. Okay. I managed to put an address in. All of that is done, I reckon. Okay. Great. Where is the other window I had? I had another window. I'm pretty sure I had another window at some point. Oh, it's in Firefox. Never mind. No, it's not. I'm so confused right now. Where's the other window I was looking for? Oh, yeah, there it is. There it is. You're looking at it. Right. So by the way, I got the Gatsby address. You can just Google it apparently.
Oh, there you go.
That's what I'm gonna set, right? Because it's the right thing to do. So United States, US. Ooh, that is the least accessible select I have seen in a long time. God damn it, Mailchimp. Like I genuinely can't even tell what it says. I'm gonna stick to India and move on. But seriously, fix that, Mailchimp. Do you have any contacts? No. Help us. Oh, come on. Does it have to be so long? Okay, there you go. Sweet. Finally. Okay. So we have a Mailchimp account, and I'm pretty sure Mailchimp has an npm package, right? So we're gonna go ahead and get that npm package, install it, and call it in our Gatsby function. That's what we're gonna do. All right. So this is, there you go. This should work. This is how you send a transactional email via Mailchimp. All right. Let's quickly go ahead and copy that over and stick it in our Gatsby function. So what I'm going to do here is say that, of course, we need to install the dependency, which I completely forgot to do. So let me go ahead and add a dependency. It's called at Mailchimp transactional. All right, so we have the Mailchimp package. Let's go ahead and restart Gatsby develop and get back in here. Cool. So we've gotten Mailchimp. We need an API key. Let's quickly grab that from Mailchimp right now. I reckon that will be in here somewhere. Let's see, integrations maybe? No, not integrations. I'm thinking dash. Wait, oh, there you go. That is what we're looking for. Account. Yeah, it's probably an account. Integrations. I bet there'll be an API key here somewhere, right? Maybe this was too ambitious. Maybe sending an email out this was too ambitious for an hour-long stream. That's all right. Where is the? Oh, there you go. Extras API keys. Your API keys. Okay, I'm gonna create an API key. I have created an API key. Look at that. Wonderful. And now we're gonna go ahead and set this API key in here. Of course, in real life, you'll want to set an env variable and whatnot, but we're not gonna bother right now. Again, also this is again, remember your Gatsby functions are server-side code and they're handled like it, right? Your client-side side does not include any of this code, so it's perfectly reasonable to use real secrets in these. Anyway. So now that we have the Mailchimp thingy, let's go and get an example of how to send an email out, which I think was right here. There you go. Templates.publish. All right. So all requests are sent via post and blah, 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 blah. How do you send an email? Messages.send. I bet it's messages.send. API endpoints. Do they have documentation? Let's look. Actually, you know what? Let's try doing a Mailchimp.messages. Autocomplete should save us. So we have messages.send. Okay. What does that take? It's impossible to find out from here. So let's look at API. Oh, wow. What happened there? Okay. That's not good. Mailchimp. Sorry?
Probably the GitHub repo as a docs, maybe an example.
Yeah, probably. Let's look at their API docs. So how do you send a message? Message send. There you go. Messages/send. Perfect. So your body needs to have a key.
HTML and
perfect. And it needs to have a message, right? So I'm guessing this is an object that has message, and message is going to have HTML and text and subject and blah, blah, blah. Let's go ahead and just copy this, paste it in here. We don't need the entire curl thingy, so I'm just going to get this, get rid of that. All right, and paste this in here. And then there you go. Of course, there's a lot here, and we don't need most of this. I'm going to get rid of most of these. Okay. Presumably, that shouldn't break things. So let's get rid of images, recipients, and so on. In fact, I'm going to get rid of everything except like the first few. So
yeah, I think the two are probably ones we probably need.
Sorry?
The from email and to email is probably what we just need.
Yes.
Get this thing
and let's just set the from email to my email for now, and we'll figure out how to get Mailchimp, to like that. And
right.
honestly, even if we can only send an email out to just like an allowed listed set of email addresses, that's fine.
That should be fine.
Yes. Hi from Gatsby and Hasura. Hello. And the HTML is also going to be hello. All right. Cool. Let's see what happens when you do this. So Gatsby develop is already running, which means our function, if, like we did a second ago, we can just hit it again via call. So let's go ahead and do that and see what happens. So I hit call, we get back an okay, true. I mean, it didn't log anything. I'm guessing this returns a promise. So let's go ahead and make that an async function, await this, and say response is equal to blah. Let's log the response because, all right, there you go. Let's hit it again. Okay, so we got back a response. It says 500 internal server error. How lovely. And the reason it's an internal server error is because, right, so the Mailchimp API doesn't.
We haven't configured the to email, right? Like, who does it send it to?
We did, didn't we? Oh, we did? Oh, that's what it is. You're absolutely right. That's what it is. So what we're going to do to start off with is we're just going to set like a hard-coded thingy, and then we'll figure out how Hasura can pass that through. All right?
Yeah.
All right. So let me hit call. Let's see what happens this time. We also get a 500. The odd thing is that it doesn't really give you a reasonable error message with respect to what actually happened. It's kind of frustrating. Yeah, it's really hard to guess what was wrong. I wonder if it's because I'm probably just not calling it right. Maybe we should look at, does this have any docs that we can look at? Huh, it doesn't have any docs that we can look at. Interesting.
Maybe is it due to the domain validation that we need to do? I think these email providers typically.
But you would think that it would tell you that and not just return a 500. Right? I suppose what we can do is go ahead and hold on. I bet there's a simpler way to do this. And email API. All of them are way too complicated right now. Never mind. All right, let's power through. We got this. I think what we need to do is figure out what's breaking, because obviously there's some random error here, right? It just says 500 internal server error. And the internal server error is not from the Gatsby function, it's from the call to Mailchimp, right?
Mailchimp.
Yeah. And I think I know what it is. You know what it probably is? We signed up with Mailchimp and not Mandrill, and Mandrill is their transactional service. I bet we're using the wrong NPM library.
It looks like there's that key parameter that needs to be like an API key on line 8. Does that have to also get sent?
I mean, we did set the API key up here, but that is a good idea. Let's try that. Why not? Let's try that. Nope, that's not it. Still 500. I bet it's because we're using the wrong NPM library.
Wrong NPM library.
Yeah, because we're using Mailchimp transactional, and that's probably the thingy that you want to use when you use Mandrill, which is Mailchimp's sort of transactional email service and not their marketing email service. This is the one that we're going to want to probably use, is my best guess. So let's try using the. All right, so let's quickly take a look at this one, right? For the information, blah, 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 blah. Mailchimp API, for the information. Look at the Mandrill API docs. So, I mean, oddly, it is the same docs that we were following previously, which is what doesn't make sense to me. What if I just curl this? Let's just curl that and see if that works. So invalidate. So that worked. You know what we're going to do? We're going to not use the library, and we're going to just run our own little call.
Do a curl.
Yeah, because clearly the other thing worked, right? So there's something odd
Yeah.
in this library that we don't know about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and copy the URL from here. Okay. And we're going to do a const response is equal to await, my apologies, fetch. There you go. And in this fetch, we're going to want to, this is going to be a post, I take it? Yes.
Request.
So this is going to be a post, all right? And then the body is going to be the same thing that we were passing, but instead this time it'll be JSON stringified. I think it's the same. Oh, there you go. It is. Yeah, it's basically this, right? So let's uncomment that. Let's get this thingy in here. There you go. Let's get rid of all of that. Stick that in here. We have 2 extra curly braces. We have an extra comma. This looks good now, I think. We
Ray
also have
Codes
something
in the chat says that Mandrill has different API keys, so we might need to find something else. But
that would make sense. That would
try
make sense.
it and see what happens.
That would make sense. That would make sense. Let's try. Let's see what this does. So if we now, so now that we're not using
response.
Say that again.
Let's log the response for this.
Yes,
Yeah.
let's log the response. That is a good idea. So let's log the response. In fact, we'll want to log the response.json and not.
Yeah.
So let's do like a res. I mean, we're already using res, so let's do result, and let's do result.json in here. That should be fine. And then finally, we log response. All right. So now let's go ahead and call our Gatsby function, error executing function. Fetch is not. Oh, right. So
yeah.
So obviously, your Gatsby function runs on the server side and not in the browser, right? So fetch doesn't just exist. You're going to want to get fetch. Typically, I've seen people use node fetch, right? And node fetch is a great shim for fetch for the server side. We most certainly don't have node fetch installed. So let's go ahead and install it very quickly. That should give us basically the same fetch API, but on the server side, like odd Node.js, right? So now that we have that, let's go ahead and restart Gatsby, of course. Gatsby won't know about it otherwise. And there you go. Let's wait for that.
And while that's starting up, we've got another question in the chat from John Hansen Artist, who's talking about updating basically like the syntax for using a Gatsby function. He had to change to export the default function instead of using this other syntax. Like
so
defining it and then exporting it.
Right.
And then this is the error that they're seeing.
Interesting. So ES modules may not assign module.exports or exports.use ESM export syntax. Interesting. So that's not an error with Gatsby functions. That's an error with like how ESM modules are defined. When you define an ESM, I mean, I think if I remember correctly, the spec needs those sort of exports to be statically defined. So you can't like create a constant, then do an export default if you're using like ESM style exports, right? If you do module.exports, you can do whatever dynamically and just set it to any other constant. But you can't do that with ESM exports, which is why you need to do export default and then like inline it in there, if I remember correctly. I think that's what you're hitting.
Sweet. Thanks. And John Hansen Artist, if you have like follow-up questions, feel free to drop those in too.
Yep, absolutely. So now that we have fetch working, let's see if our API runs. How are we doing on time in the meantime?
We're at the top of the hour, so as long as you want to keep going, let me double check my calendar. I don't think I have anything.
I'm done for the day, so I can keep going for a little bit.
That's true. It is also very late for you, so
that's fine. I enjoy this sort of stuff. Praveen, how are you doing on time?
Yeah, same as you, Indian time zone.
Yeah. So let's spend a few more minutes and see this working. So, okay, so now we actually get a real validation error, and that's great, right? Please enter an array. Okay, nice. We get real errors now. That's wonderful. So it says, please enter an array for 2. And it looks like we have entered an array. So I'm a little confused about what it means here. So I'm going to go ahead and log that, right? Stack Overflow to the rescue. So you need to set post, blah, 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 blah. Oh, I bet I'm probably not just not like, maybe it's because I don't have the content I just set. I bet it's that. Sorry?
Yeah, the content type application JSON maybe.
Yeah, I said content digest. I meant content type. Yeah, I bet it's probably something there. So let's try that again. See what happens now. Please enter an array. We are entering an array. I think this is an array, right? Yeah, this is an array.
Is it popular key, or is it like a key within the message?
It says API key in the docs. I'm pretty sure we're setting the right key. I remember the doc suggesting that it was the API key. At some point, I had the docs open here. But yes, messages.send, that key value there is the API key. I think you need to send it with every API call. Like that's the idea. A valid API key. There you go. Right. Let's quickly look at what the docs say for 2 in terms of properties here. An array of recipient information. Oh, right. There you go. That's what it is.
It's an array.
Right. You know, honestly, I really like you would think that these error messages would be a little kinder. Be kind, folks, with your error messages. It's important, you know. So otherwise, people get tired. You know, when it's 11:30 p.m. You know, you wanna just send an email, right? You wanna just send an email and go home. You know, and if your error messages, you know, aren't clear, maybe we won't be able to send emails. So, you know, write better error messages. Anyway, let's curl that again. Invalid API key. You know what though? We didn't get a validation error. So I'm really happy about that. We will fix the invalid API key. And I think, like someone had previously mentioned, that's just a function of the fact that, yeah, that it's literally just a different like API key. And while I sort that out, Megan, you want to quickly, you know, not show my screen. I am gonna quickly figure out this API key while you all make small talk. Go make small talk.
There you go. Let's see. I guess Praveen, do you want to tease the upcoming stream on Hasura's end?
Ooh, there's one more.
Yeah, Sid, you're supposed to do that. Yeah, so Sid is joining us on Hasura. So we're doing this on September 3rd week, 21st. And we'll probably set up a different examples, different use case over there.
Nice.
Yeah, if you have
What
something
is the
that
stream?
you're interested in, like tell us on Twitter maybe. But yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Users do look it up in the comments. Let us know in the comments if you want to do a different use case. Look at it. That's going to be fun though. But yeah, I think
what is your channel?
Gatsby is not the blocker. I think it's the external tools that we're using, which seems to be the blockers these days. I hope.
Yeah, that's usually the case, right, with most things.
Yeah. Yeah, so our channel would be youtube.com/c/HasuraHQ, the official Hasura channel. So we're running the show called Data and API Show every week on Tuesdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, and everything about data and APIs, as the title suggests.
That is super cool. You know what? I figured out how to. I signed up for Mandrill. I'm very, very proud of myself right now.
Woo! There you go.
I signed up for Mandrill. It honestly was just one button. It wasn't that hard, but
there you go.
But we managed to do it, and I am creating a new API key now. Oh, look at that! Look at that! All right, so share my screen. Check this out. create a key, create a Mandrill API key. The individual who previously mentioned that it's a separate API key, you are amazing. Thank you.
Yep, that was Ray Codes.
You should just listen to Ray Codes before, man. But that's what it was. That was absolutely what it was. I'm going to add a new API key now for Mandrill. We're going to use that. We're going to send an email, and then we're going to use Hasura Cloud to do this on events. Praveen, tell us a little bit about how events work on Hasura while I figure this out.
Yeah. So we've created a table called users, if you remember, and what we want to do is on insert into this table, we want to call a webhook handler we've written. So we'll configure something called an event trigger, which will just basically call this Gatsby function endpoint once a row gets inserted into the users table. So it's just an asynchronous API call that you end up calling. And the interesting bit here is that since Hasura Cloud will be a public endpoint, it requires another public handler to be called. So you'll probably have to deploy your Gatsby function onto Gatsby Cloud and get a public endpoint that Hasura can contact.
That's all right. That should be a very simple thing to do because of how Gatsby Cloud works. You should just be able to push to Git and get that working. So now we have an API key. It looks like something actually happened. It says invalid JSON response body. I think it doesn't send you back JSON. It might send like it JSON. Might. Yeah, I think it sends back like. You see that? I think it sends XML back, man. Like really? Is that how Mandrill works? Does it really send you back XML? Hold on, let's find out. Mandrill docs. Maybe we're hitting the wrong version. So API reference 1.0. Oh no, we're definitely hitting the right version. What does message send return to us? So let's take a look at documentation. Messages/send. And it looks like we're passing in the right things this time, etc. All of that looks good. The success response is an array.
Seems to be a JSON.
Yeah, it looks like JSON. At least that's what we're told. What's happening here is that we are getting an invalid JSON response body. It's not able to parse it. That's why it's failing. I wonder why that's the case. How do we debug this? Let us think for a moment. I bet it's
log the result itself before doing a JSON parsing of that.
That is a very good idea. Let's go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead, done this, log what our result is, take a look at what we get. So I'm gonna hit curl again. Alrighty. Socket hung up. Socket hang up. Really? Wow, this is a terrible advertisement for Mailchimp and Mandrill. Just say.
We got to bring them on the stream next time.
Oh, but guess what? It worked this time. It gave us a 200, and it says status rejected, and that's probably because like it couldn't send to because obviously this email address isn't in whatever like their whitelist of things, and I'm not gonna bother with that. Like, go configure that later if you really want to. But that's how you send an email. I'm glad that we got that working. But yeah, this whole thing is a terrible advertisement for Mailchimp. My apologies.
We're learning in public. Learning on the fly.
You know how it is. Yeah. It's fun though. We're having fun.
Yeah.
All right. So now that we know how to send an email via Mandrill, right? Mm-hmm. Of course, it's rejected because config and whatnot. I think typically you need to set up DNS and verify that you want a domain and then add correct. And then for transactional email, you also want to be able to, I think, put people on like a list of sorts. Given that this is a demo account that we created 10 minutes ago, typically there's like an approval process after which you can actually send out email. All of this is to prevent people from spamming each other. But nothing in your code should probably change. So now that we have that, let's go ahead, push this up to Gatsby Cloud, right? get a URL for our Gatsby function, and then get Hasura to like let's set that up and take it from there. What do you think?
Right. Yeah, I think so. Before we push this to Gatsby Cloud, we'll probably need to modify how Hasura handles this, how Hasura sends a request to this, and then how the payload has to be transformed. So right now, I think you are making a GET request to the Gatsby function. Hasura basically triggers post endpoint. So
okay, so the
we
cool
want
thing about
to
Gatsby
handle-
functions, right? The cool thing about Gatsby functions is like Polly mentioned earlier. With Gatsby functions, we try to give the user all of that control, right? So in here, this endpoint, you can call with any HTTP method, including head, get, post, delete, etc. And it'll all sort of trigger the same Gatsby function. The idea is that in here you have request.method, and if you don't want your function to respond for a specific HTTP method, you can basically do if method is equal
and then
to
return something
post.
else.
Exactly, and then return back like a method not allowed, right? For the sake of simplicity here, we're not going to bother doing that. We're just going to let it work for everything. But I guess with what Praveen was saying, the post will work because the function will listen on post. So let's say initial commit. We have this fig thingy is little. I'm not used to it yet, so I don't know what. There you go. Let's get rid of it. All right, cool. I'm gonna quickly create a new GitHub repo. All right, call it, what is it? Gatsby loves Hasura. Let's make that public. Create the repo. All right. Let's add this origin in here very quickly. Let's push up. What happened there? Oh, I think because I initialized it locally, it created a master branch instead of main. Oh boy. All right, cool. So now we have a repo. Let's quickly open Gatsby Cloud. If you haven't seen Gatsby Cloud before, this is what it looks like. It's very pretty. Kudos to our designers. They're incredible. It's very pretty. There's a lot of purple and a lot of some of my favorite colors, honestly. But jokes apart, Gatsby Cloud is cool. If you're building a Gatsby site, probably the best place to build it, host it, deploy it. I mean, everything just works, right? Yeah, this is what it looks like. As you can see, it knows about this repo already. Just pick master, hit next. It's gonna, it's gonna ask us if we want to, spin up a couple of optional integrations and so on. We're gonna skip all of that right now because we don't need any of that. We don't have any env variables that we need. Ideally, you'd want to move that API key out and put it in here. We're gonna, breeze through right now to save some time. But as soon as this is built, it's gonna give us a URL, right? And that URL is gonna, it's public, it's hosted on Gatsby Cloud. You can hit it from anywhere you want. So as you can see, and again, this is hosted, on a world-class CDN powered by Fastly. So you're not just hitting some URL that can't handle production traffic. You can very much use this URL for production traffic. So let's give this a few minutes.
Yeah, while this is
install.
building, you've got another question in the chat from Paul. With Gatsby functions, is the server and the client running on the same port? So like, do they have the same origin?
That is, do you mean locally or do you mean like on Gatsby Cloud? If you mean,
maybe.
well, in both, honestly, let's just answer both, right? Are they running on the same port? For both cases, the answer is yes, right? Whether you're calling a function or trying to fetch a page in a Gatsby site, it's all HTTPS, it's all 443 on that domain, right? The only thing that differentiates a function from a page is the fact that it's within the /API/ sort of that URL structure. Do they have the same origin? Yep, absolutely. Same port, same origin. Hope that answers it. Even locally, if you're running Gatsby develop, you're going to get localhost 8000. And your functions, as you saw, we've been calling localhost 8000, also listens on the same port. All right, so this is done. This is already deployed. And it took like a second to do it. Super impressive. Some really smart people working on making builds fast. Anyhow, my apologies. All right, so now we have a real URL, and if you try to call API/send email, this is going to be, this is our, as you can see, it returns okay true. So how do we now hook this up to Hasura Cloud?
Right. So let's go back to our console. Hasura console.
I think that was in Chrome. There you go. Yeah.
We are on event triggers right now. So let's create an event trigger.
There you go.
Name it send email maybe. Yeah, welcome email.
Okay.
And let's select the database will be default and the schema would be public. Table would be users. And we want this to trigger when insert happens and call this webhook. So you just
very
paste
cool.
Post
Very
endpoint.
cool. And can I pick like what the body will be and what the webhook will receive?
So the webhook will have will receive a format which will have an event payload. The request body will have event, and we can log that. We can even check them out.
Super cool.
But
super cool.
What will happen is basically your user data, which is the email column, will be sent inside a key called event.
Very cool. Very cool. And you can even set like retry logic and so on,
if something's failing,
exactly.
Exactly.
That's super cool. In fact, in most cases, you'll probably want to set a header with some kind of secret key that only Hasura Cloud and your Gatsby function knows, because otherwise anybody should will be able to trigger your Gatsby function since it's public. So ideally, you'd set some key in here and then check that key in your Gatsby function and only then go ahead and do things. But again, for simplicity, I'm just going to create this trigger. And how we're gonna test this? We obviously don't have real emails being sent out because reasons. But what we're gonna do is on Gatsby Cloud, let's take a look at logs for the functions. So we have logs for every function execution, right? And we can take a look at if that function got triggered when we created, like when we added a new email to Hasura. Right. So as you can see in the UI, this is our functions invocation log. This is the one where I hit it like in the browser.
The browser.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's look for one from Hasura Cloud. Right. The magic moment is here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to, I think we had there you go. This is the URL. Let's get rid of all of that. Let's add an email. All right. Give me an email. Does anybody know Paul's?
Let's do yours.
I think we did mine already. Mine might already be there, but that's right. We'll do it again.
Oh, this is for adding a new one.
Right.
Well, let's just make like a test one.
Yeah. Let's do
those plus emails. Yeah.
Oh, right. You can use plus emails. I keep forgetting about those. That stuff is so useful. All right. So I'm going to hit submit. All right. And now that I hit submit, it looks like everything worked. If we look at Hasura, we should see. Let's go
to invocation logs inside events. Yeah. So
there you go. So we have this in here. Okay. And let's look at events.
Let's go to events. Let's go to the welcome emails. Let's look at processed events or invocation logs. Yeah. So
look at that. Look at that. Isn't that incredible? That's fantastic, man. That's so cool. And it got back the response with okay, true as well. So it looks like things worked, right? If you look at Gatsby Cloud, I think there you go, look at that. It's a new post with 200. And of course the email didn't go out because,
Yeah, that's the magic.
But pretend like the email went out, right? Just please pretend like it did. And this is super cool though. Like I think this is super cool. The fact that you can do it on a per key basis or a per type of operation basis, like we saw, only for inserts. You can in fact even do stuff for deletes, right, or for updates. I think that's super cool.
Yeah. So basically just declarative configuration over here, and you can check the invocations on both Gatsby Cloud and also Hasura Cloud.
Super cool. All right, awesome. I hope you all enjoyed this. This was a not so simple intro to Gatsby functions and Hasura Cloud and how to sort of make them work together. I had a lot of fun. I think this was super cool, and in fact, I learned a lot as well. I haven't used Hasura Cloud before, but it was super easy to just get started, and as you all saw, figure things out on the fly, which is a testament to how cool Hasura Cloud is. And what do you all think? Did you all enjoy this, Praveen, Megan?
Yeah, this was cool. You've got a couple of
Gatsby
questions
Cloud
in the
is
chat.
cool I haven't tried functions deployed on Gatsby Cloud, so I think this was a learning for me today.
Yeah. And like I mentioned previously, you just git push and everything just works under the hood. In fact, even stuff like invocation logs, as you saw. Right. The idea is to make things as seamless as possible. And if you're building a Gatsby site, using Gatsby Cloud is going to make things as easy as it can get. So with that, I'm going to quickly stop sharing so we can take questions.
Yeah, we've got a couple of questions so far. Okay, so one more from John Hansen Artist, just like checking understanding. So the name of the file in source/API is the function name that you will call, like the name of the endpoint. So it's okay to use an anonymous function because it'll just take the file name.
Yes. So you can't have more than one function in a file, right? Every file within the API directory can only export one Gatsby function, right? And the name of the Gatsby function on the path and the name, well, both of them are exactly the same thing, is the name of the file. So as we saw, I had a file called send-email.js, and the .js part gets stripped out. So the name of the Gatsby function and the path becomes send-email. And of course, it's within /API, like we saw previously.
Nice. And I just dropped the section of the docs site that has all of our functions reference guides, if that's helpful. And then you've got one more from Polly Scanlon. People want you to do a cores stream. So talking about if you had Gatsby functions on different sites, how do you handle those cores errors?
It's actually much simpler than you think, because with cores, the way cores typically works is that you have a bunch of different headers, and depending on the responses of these headers, your browser can process a request or not, right? And because your Gatsby function is just a function, you can really return whatever you want, right? You can return your response headers set to the domains you want to allow or disallow. But you know what we can do? We can, in the next stream that we do together, Praveen, we can maybe look at we can maybe look at sort of incorporating this and seeing what we can do with cores. But that's super super cool that you pointed that out. Thank you, Polly.
And I'm just dropping a link one more time to the Hasura HQ YouTube channel. So if you want to check out the next stream, that's where you can go for that. Let's see. Any other questions from people in the chat while I do my last couple of plugs? Right now we have this Gatsby Jam, or no, Funk Jam challenge, where if you want to write your own example site using Gatsby functions in a cool way, we've got some prizes that you can win. Let's see, what are there? There's an M1 Mac Mini, some fancy headphones. Yeah, or a $500 donation in your name to a charity.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So yeah, get fun toys or donate money.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh, and we also have Gatsby Camp coming up on September 16th. So I'm dropping a link to that. So we'll be talking about how you can scale your sites with Gatsby. I'll be talking about documentation and fun things you can do. Kirsten will be emceeing, which is always a delight. Yeah, so come hang out.
That's awesome. This is super fun. Praveen, thank you for joining us on this. And Megan, Kirsten, thank you for making this happen.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll see you all next time.
Yep. See ya. Bye.
Right. Bye.
Bye.